Almost every day, it seems like I get asked on either this channel or the various owners groups that I'm on and Facebook, what is the best market for short-term rentals? In my opinion, it's the Smoky Mountains market with Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, and Sevierville, and I'm going to tell you all about why I think that right now. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Airbnb ABCs. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button down below. If you've been with us for a while, hit that like button. It really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. Today, we are going to talk about what I think is the best short-term rental market, the one that I'm invested in, the one that I think produces the best results for the least amount of hassle. In my opinion, that is the Smoky Mountains market. That is the one that encompasses everything on the Tennessee side of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, including Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, starting to become the Townsend and Cosby area, although those are still kind of on the outreaches of where that area is. And for me, it comes down to several different factors, but the biggest one for me is the demand. Demand is always going to be your number one most important thing, no matter what. You could have millions and millions of dollars invested in condos in Miami, or like $50,000 invested in a cabin next to a landfill, and the demand for that Miami place is going to make you money, even though it's super expensive real estate versus that piece of crap that's next to the landfill. You have to put your place in a place where people want to go. Where people want to go from a large area of the country, maybe even the world, and that just brings in folks based on the area. The Smokies does a fantastic job of doing this. I am all the way up here in Cincinnati, which is about 250 miles north of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And even up here, we see billboards, we see advertisements for Gatlinburg, for Pigeon Forge. The local governments do a tremendous job of selling that area. When you look at the Smoky Mountains, you look at Gatlinburg, you are looking at a market that draws people in both as a primary and as a secondary vacation market. So some folks are going there because that's where they want to go on vacation. They want to go to the mountains. They want to go to Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge, or they have some sort of business dealing there, or with their family traveling. They host a lot of sporting events, and so these people are coming there because that's where they want to go. As a secondary market, if folks want to go on vacation, but they don't necessarily want to spend an entire week at the beach, for either time reasons or for money reasons, there's a lot of times where people will say, instead of spending a week at the beach, we're going to spend 2, 3, 4 days in the Smokies, and that makes it very attractive as a secondary market. I really don't know anywhere other than the Smoky Mountains in the eastern side of the country that really has that, whereas both a primary and a secondary market. The Smokies has essentially 3 major draw items. The first is Pigeon Forge, and this is like a Dolly Partoned up, scaled down version of the Las Vegas Strip. It's not personally my thing, but I can definitely see why people go there. There are shows, there are shops. I mean, and the shows are like wild. It's like cowboys and Indians and all sorts of stuff. The shops are crazy. You can get all sorts of weird things in there that are, mountainy type of stuff. And then there are a lot of attractions such as mountain coasters. There's indoor skydiving. There are go-karts and bumper cars and all sorts of stuff. You can do bungee jumping. Again, not exactly my thing, but I can see where the draw is. The second is Gatlinburg City itself. And this is kind of more of a cutesy, Bavarian themed city that's tucked into the hills. It's really in a valley between 2 hills and butts up to the national park. That is actually where one of the entrances into the national park is. Again, this is a pretty commercial place. Things cost a lot of money. There are a lot of attractions. There are a lot of mountain attractions such as chairlifts, trams that go up to snow recreational areas in the winter, and in the summertime they have mountain coasters. It is a very touristy area, but it does feel a little more like a town in the woods versus Pigeon Forge. The third and biggest attraction to the Smoky Mountains is the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. This is the most visited national park in the country by far. In 2022, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park did 13 million visitations, which was the second highest level that it has ever achieved. This is more than the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, and Yellowstone combined. So, if you think of the popularity of those attractions, combine those, The Great Smoky Mountain National Park did more than that. And so all these people that are coming in for all these 3 attractions, there are folks that come to our cabins that have no idea that there's even a national park nearby, if you can believe that. All of those people need places to stay, and those are places that you can rent them, and they even give you basically the template that people want to stay in a log cabin in the woods. They want it to be secluded. So as long as you buy one of those places, you're probably going to do well, and you're probably going to make money. You're probably going to make a lot of money, because the deal is that there is extremely high demand for the area, and that means that you can charge high rates for these highly desirable top-tier cabins. And so that is the number one reason why the Smoky Mountains is a fabulous place to get into short-term rental investing, is because the demand is through the roof year-round on several different items. There's not just one thing, so if that thing picked up and left or something happened with it, that the demand would just automatically go down. The second reason that the Smoky Mountains is my number one area to go to for looking at short-term rentals is that although the properties are crazy expensive, and we're talking between $250 to $500, maybe $550, $600 a square foot, and that's very expensive real estate. $600,000 or so for a 12 to 1500 2-bedroom, 2-bath cabin. Everything else about the area is extremely cheap to operate in, and the reason that the properties are so expensive is because of the income potential, because of the demand that we just talked about. After that, after you put the money out for the property, and it's a tough pill to swallow, everything else is pretty much cheaper. The taxes are cheap. There is no income tax in the state of Tennessee. So all the income that you make on that is not taxed at the state level. Property taxes are extremely low. I mean, extremely low. On any of these properties that we have that probably have an average value of about $600,000, we are paying less than $1,000 a year for property taxes. And if you guys are watching in California or New York or really anywhere else, even Texas, you guys know that your property taxes are through the roof, and that those tax bills right there would probably be into the tens of thousands. So the taxes are super low. Insurance is equally as low on any of these. We pay about $1,200 to $1,400 a year for insurance, and that includes our hazard insurance, liability insurance, our short-term rental, home sharing, riders that go along with that. The insurance is crazy cheap. If you compare that to my other favorite market, which is the Florida Panhandle Gulf Coast market, the insurance down there is insane. You're looking at probably $7,000 to $21,000 a year, depending on what kind of property you have, how close it is to the water, if it's in a flood zone, etc. It doesn't even compare with the insurance rates up here in Tennessee. Not only that, but there's fewer major natural disasters to worry about. There are windstorms, snowstorms, and rain. Those are our biggest thing. They usually take out power, for a particular period of time, but there's not hurricanes that are going to come through and wipe out your home or the area for 1, 2, 3 months until things can recover. And then in addition to that, to all those things, those fixed costs, help is usually pretty cheap to come by. Your contractors, your handymen, people to come fix things, those things are a lot less expensive than I would have ever expected. They're a lot less expensive than the Cincinnati area. The only exception to that is maybe your housekeepers. If you find a good housekeeper, they will probably charge you more than you may be thinking of in your head. But the price for that is passed on to the guest, whether you include that as a cleaning fee or you just mark up your rates and absorb that cost yourself. But when you do find a good housekeeper, if they are a little bit more expensive than you want, but they show up on time, don't miss turns, and your place looks spotless and you get great reviews because of it, it's worth every dime. The third thing that makes this area fabulous for your short-term rental goes along with the second thing, with essentially help being relatively cheap to find and things being cheap to operate, is that it is also easy to find that help. There is a very strong short-term rental infrastructure in the Smokies because they've been doing it for so long and because a lot of the economy is based on short-term rentals. There's a large community of owners who can answer almost any question. And this is one of the ways that I try to flesh out which markets are good and which of them aren't. If there are a ton of Facebook owners groups for the market that you're looking at, and there are for the Smoky Mountains, if there is a cleaners Facebook group, if there is like a Contractors Facebook group where you can just go on there and be like, I need a plumber or I need a cleaner or whatever that you need to do. That is usually an indication that you are in a strong short-term rental market with a lot of infrastructure that's going to make your life much easier running this thing, because it's hard enough already dealing with guests and all that. You can go on these and ask almost any question and get an answer almost immediately, and maybe even get 3 or 4 great answers. And this is going to come down to things like taxes and licenses. Like, what do you need to do so you're not in trouble with the government? Where can you find cleaners? Where can you find those contractors? Like I just said, I have not found another market that has such a robust infrastructure around short-term rentals, around the owners, where there is so much information from usually decades in the past, if some of these Facebook groups have been active for a very long time, that you can get a lot of great information very easily just from your phone. You don't have to make a bunch of phone calls. Just get on Facebook, start looking for it. Also, all those contractors and the entire infrastructure is on board with the program. They know what's going on. You aren't trying to bring in some sort of just regular residential plumber, electrician, HVAC handyman that's like, oh, we'll be out there in 2 to 3 days. We'll be there, whatever hour of the day. They know that the work is broken down between check out and check in. They know that turn days are a rapid process, and they know that they need to get in and out between 10 and 4. I nearly had an entire HVAC system replaced, but in that window. They know that you are not going to be on site, that most of the owners are not even local to the area at all. They know the keypad system. There's not any of this, hesitation on going into these places, fixing this stuff without the owner present, because really nobody is local. And that is what makes the Smoky Mountains and the Smoky Mountain Regional Market a fabulous place to start your short-term rental journey. Finally, the fourth thing is that the local government is extremely short-term rental friendly. This can be just as important as the demand side of things and any of the other things that I mentioned, because if you even have a place that has strong demand, but there is a lot of pushback against short-term rentals, that can just undermine and could potentially totally shut down your short-term rental business, leaving you with a $600,000 2-bedroom house, cabin, or whatever that's totally not set up for long-term rental, just because of like closet space, storage space, living space, and you aren't even able to make the mortgage based on long-term numbers. So that could be a major problem in your life if that would come along. In the Smokies, the tourism is essentially the economy. I mean, there's not a whole lot of mountain towns that you've probably run through that have the type of buildup and the type of real estate and the amount of money coming into it as the Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Smoky Mountain region. The reason for this, simply because people want to go there and they're willing to bring all of their vacation and tourism dollars in there. This place has been a short-term rental destination since like the 30s or 40s. I read that on I think a putt-putt little sign that they had a bunch of history of the area. I did not know that it had gone back that far, but it has been going on now for almost 100 years now in the 2020s. This has gone on far before VRBO and Airbnb kind of really jumped into the short-term rental thing. They were just local property managers where you would get a catalog in the mail, or you'd have to call them up and see what's available back in the dark ages before you could get anything at the tip of your fingers. And it's very, very short-term rental centric for the entire economy, so that there is very little short-term rental restrictions, save for several areas that they have designated for residents only. And this is a great thing because those areas are not as high priced as the ones where you can make $80,000, $100,000, $200,000 a year to rent those cabins. So people can still afford to live in the area for the most part, and also have this awesome short-term rental industry that runs adjacent. There are very little short-term restrictions otherwise, and there is really nothing in the works from the local government side of things. And that is something definitely to consider anytime you're looking at any market, so that you don't get the legs cut out from under you and your investment. Click on these links that are on the screen right now. They're going to tell you guys all about the short-term rentals that we own, how we run them from afar, and just all the trials and tribulations of running a short-term rental business, especially from a long distance away. I appreciate you guys watching today. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe down below, hit that like button for me, and I'll see you in the next one.